first off the ball, I wanted to get to quarterbacks. Chris Trapasso of CBS wrote a great article breaking down the quarterbacks most likely to take a second-year leap. I am of the opinion that you could just throw a dart at the quarterback class from a year ago and you're going to hit one that's probably most likely to hit a second-year leap. All these guys are, that was just the class. I raved about it all last spring. I was just like, hey, this is a unique class. You don't want to be the Giants not taking one. You don't want to be the team that just passes on it. You're probably passed on a pretty darn good football player. So in your eyes, though, if you had to rank them, I guess the top three, who is going to have the best seasons of this quarterback class this year?
Well, I would be remiss not to get some contextual pointing out here.
Okay.
Jayden Daniels, you can't get much better, so I'm gonna put him at 1 because their team got better. He got an offensive tackle.
Yes.
He got another receiver that's a Pro Bowl, All-Pro in the past. Obviously, to add into that offense with Terry McLaurin, and there's some holes in Washington, but Dan Quinn's done a great job really having that culture, have the floor be very high for the Washington Commander defense. So it's that offense that will get better. Obviously, Jayden Daniels is going to his second year. The last football game he played when it was the NFC Championship. I think behind him is Caleb Williams. He is going to be indoctrinated into the Ben Johnson School of Football and technical acuity. And he's going to be a better quarterback. Let's just face it. For those of you who naysay everything that he does, I understand. Being a hater, it's a full-time job. But the guy's only got one way to go. That's up. They invested in the offensive line. They got a quarterback's best friend in Colston Loveland, which will be a lot of fun to watch. And obviously the receiver room is still really talented. The defense is going to be a strength for this football team, particularly the secondary. There's a lot of good things around Caleb Williams. I think he'll be number 2. He's got to get rid of the football. Number 3 for me is going to be Drake Maye. I think that Drake Maye goes from the young player with a lot of pop with his fastball that people start to watch to be like, can't miss television week in, week out. And you pair that with the Mike Vrabel effect, more people are going to be watching these games. They're going to be winning football games, and they've got a bunch of studs on their football team now. I think Drake Maye's physical tools showed in college at UNC, but his technique got better last year. I can only imagine the second iteration can't be much worse than that, Mike. And then obviously Bo Nix, who I thought played above his britches size. He played, one size bigger than his britches last year. I'm not sure that there's going to be – we might not see him get that much better, but let's be honest, Bo Nix was a good quarterback last year, and this is no slight on Bo Nix. And their football team's better as well. But I just see the other guys making real jumps because of their physical tools.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to break down it. And your analysis of Nix, I as like one of the biggest Bo Nix lovers in the media space, I think it's spot on. I don't foresee him leaping to this. I don't think we've had anyone join the elite tier of quarterbacks since 2020, right? Like since the 2020 draft class. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. I don't think we've seen anyone 2021. I don't think CJ Stroud's quite there yet. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is quite there yet. But that's the last time. I don't foresee Bo Nix joining that tier. That's just not where I think he ultimately ends up. He's going to be a great NFL quarterback. I think he's somewhere in the 8 to 12 range, not in the 1 to 5 range. And I also think just if you're stacking him up versus all these other guys, he doesn't have the weapons on the outside that, Drake Maye is probably the only one with.
They play a different brand of football. And we're going to get into more of the Broncos brand of football later, obviously.
I think they're going to run the ball so much more than they did a year ago. I think they're going to be so much better at doing it with RJ Harvey there that it's not necessarily going to be all on Bo Nix. And I think he's going to be a value add in that running game as well because he's a fantastic athlete. So that's where he can make a big impact. But I do agree that I think Caleb Williams, I think it turns on for him. The one guy, though, that I really think, just from what I saw last season to what he's going into, to the situation, that would not surprise me if we're talking about him. Obviously, Jayden Daniels, there's no second year. But if we're talking about him in a similar breath to Jayden Daniels, I think Michael Penix Jr. is primed.
Yep.
It just in terms of the situation, the division that he plays in, not a lot of elite defenses there. You got the Panthers defense, Saints defense, Bucks defense. Bucks is probably the best, but it's not difficult, right? Whereas Jayden Daniels, look at the division he plays in, Eagles defense, Cowboys defense, Giants defense now, it's going to be difficult where, the division that Caleb Williams plays in, Vikings defense, Lions defense, they're going to have tougher stretches than Michael Penix Jr. And I think with the Falcons defense, they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I think he is primed to go for
big
4,500 yards.
Numbies for Michael Penix. Guy, he throws a beautiful ball.
And if you just watched him at any point at Indiana, Washington, the guy completely unafraid. He is going to go down swinging. That was one of his best attributes. One of my comps, just joking comps almost, is just like Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's the way he plays. Now he's obviously more physically gifted than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but that's the play style, is the gunslinger mentality. And I think with the talent that they have, Drake London, with Darnell Mooney, and with Zach Robinson dialing it up, who I was very impressed with in his first year as OC, and I was going to a second year as OC, I think he is primed for the biggest, leap year on year. But as I said, it's insane just watching these guys, how everyone's primed. Everyone based off their rookie season and what you saw, and then what each team added to them this offseason. I don't think anyone really fails, right? Maybe guys fall short of lofty expectations. Maybe we set the bar a little too high for guys. I'd even throw Jayden Daniels in there after his rookie season with how high he set the bar. Maybe
that's tough.
People have a CJ Stroud-esque second season where it's just not quite.
It's just relative to the first season.
Exactly. But it's relative to these high expectations. So that's what I kind of want to talk about jumping off of that was, where do we think this quarterback class ends up? Because I've never, 1 year out, been talking about all hits the way we have. There's 6 first-round quarterbacks. Obviously, we haven't gotten to see J.J. McCarthy. He may be in the best situation of all these guys in terms of the offensive line, the play caller, the wide receiver talent that he has going into year 2. But obviously, we haven't seen him play live football since the preseason. But where do we think this quarterback class ends up? Because obviously 2020 is the last real superlative class, right? The last class that really had a lot of hits. You had Joe Burrow, you had Tua, you had Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. Basically, the first 5 quarterbacks drafted are quote unquote franchise quarterbacks. They made that status. 2018 was obviously a great draft in retrospect. You have 2 MVPs in Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold turned out to be quote unquote franchise quarterbacks, just not for the teams that drafted them. Josh Rosen, obviously the dud in that class, but still a very good class with some high-end talent. You go back to 2012 that had Andrew Luck, RG3, Ryan Tannehill, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins. That one was great. Obviously talent down the board. 04 is held up as one of the gold standards. You're going to have multiple Hall of Famers from that. Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. And then all the way back in time to 1983, which is routinely held up as the best quarterback class of all time. It set the record at the time with 6 first-round picks that obviously was matched a year ago with that 2024 class, but had John Elway, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, alongside Tony Eason, Todd Blackledge, and Ken O'Brien. So where do we think this ends up in the pantheon of quarterback draft classes?
Well, it's really tough, obviously, because you can't project Super Bowls, and none of the guys have them yet. But then again, I go to the 83 class, and the top of the class, I'm looking at Elway, Marino, Jim Kelly, and Jim Kelly went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost every single one. But damn, he went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Dan Marino is widely known as the guy who couldn't get the job. They didn't have the team around him, but it's also widely known that he's like the Joe Burrow of that generation, where the ball just comes out, it's on time, it's in the right spot, it's layered beautifully, frustrates every defensive lineman. That's the guy that my dad always tells me, John Elway, because of his physical gifts and his toughness, obviously, and Dan Marino, he always says, was a ball machine. The ball was just there were no issues. He was a well-oiled ball machine, and he pissed everybody off. But you got to think that, Jayden Daniels is at some point going to win a Super Bowl. And you got to think that guys like Caleb Williams or Drake Maye, they can, restart the dynasty in New England. There's Denver Broncos is a football team that's kind of got the blueprint to go beat anybody, anywhere. So for a guy like Bo Nix, who knows?
I do want to go back and watch Dan Marino Pittsburgh tape. I wonder if that's available. Some Pittsburgh 1982 all 22. Because how did he slip? Like, you watch him throw at the NFL level, and he has obviously elite tier arm talent. One of the quickest releases in NFL history. And it truly is. I mean, he was the Aaron Rodgers of his time in terms of just like that ball was where it needed to be every single time. And obviously Aaron Rodgers fell at 24, so maybe it's not crazy that it happened, but 5 guys drafted over him. In year 2, he broke the single season passing record.
We went over the numbers one episode, and if there's anybody who's in here watching, we discussed Dan Marino. We went through season by season, stat by stat. I think it was last year when we were talking about rookie quarterbacks. Actually, we were talking about best rookie seasons, and Dan Marino, obviously one of those guys. And then his second season, he went the opposite way of C.J. Stroud. He just went 1,500 more yards and 15 more touchdowns because he got to play the entire season.
I think this last year's class, though, 2024, I think it ends up in argument for the top spot. I don't think it's going to be clear-cut top spot.
Just based on volume.
Because you are going to have, I believe, 6 franchise quarterbacks from this class. I think 3 guys very capable of being in the MVP conversation, the top 3 from that class, and maybe even Michael Penix Jr. as well. So 4 guys potentially that could be MVP routinely.
Jeez.
I mean, it is a uniquely special class that I just hope he drafted one. I just hope
there was the quarterback club. Essentially all the guys that got signed to do all the marketing things. So you turn on your TV today, it's Travis Kelce, it's Jason Kelce, it's TJ Watt, it's JJ Watt, it's Saquon Barkley. There's 10 players in that space who gets everything. Well, in the 90s, it was the quarterback club who had monopolized that. And it was everybody from Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, Phil Simms, Boomer Esiason, guys that we see on or have seen on NFL Today in the past, they were all part of the quarterback club. These guys monopolized. They cornered the market on markeing, and now Jason Kelce's got it by the balls right now.
I had Quarterback Club 97, the video game on N64.
Yes, Quarterback Club 94 was on
Super Nintendo. Got blowing it. Oh. I need to go back and play one of those one time. Just see
back when you could chuck the game and it wouldn't break. It was just a brick. It was just like a Lego brick. You could build a house with SNES cartridges.
Oh man, you really could. Club probably has.